I don't really have a plan for this video. I'm just coming on to maintain a commitment to myself. Um, Maybe just kind of sharing a little bit about where I'm at this solstice. I left where I lived all my life, the state that I lived, in October because after several years of trial and loss, I realized that the environment there just wasn't working for me anymore. And there were circumstances that led up to it. Um, I ended up selling my house and just hitting the road and going. And I traveled quite a bit, and I'm still planning on traveling. But I ended up at my dad's. And initially, I was just going to stay for a little while and then hit the road some more and go on down to California. But now I've been here almost 2 months. Um, and it's been slow and it's been, kind of pathless. Like, I realized that I was stuck in waiting. And I had these other realizations too, like the ones that I had about how I was hiding. I know at first when I left, there was a lot of running. Like I got all the way to the Atlantic Ocean from Idaho and realized I'm just running. I am literally flat out like a wild animal in a cage who has had their first taste of freedom, and I'm just running in the first direction that comes to me. And there was a little bit of, picking a direction and picking a little bit each day for where I was going. But when I left, I said to my dad, I was like, I'm going to head to Yellowstone because I haven't been to Yellowstone since the 80s when it was on fire. And then I'm going to come see you. And I ended up all the way on the Atlantic and then down through the desert and up. But then I did get the call to head here, and I have been here since. And as I'm sitting here in the solstice with, the lowest point of the sun and the horizon and then its return, and so it's 3 days of darkness. There's all of that Christian symbolism. With that, I've been thinking about the energies that everybody is talking about with the snake shedding its skin and endings, and being able to release things that are no longer serving, to be able to be accountable to our own truths and then live in the change that we want to see. And I've talked a bit about how, I approach all of this by envisioning the kind of person that would need to be in order to live the life I wanted. And I just put that skin on now. But I've realized as I've been here, like my dad is a special person. He's not blood related to me. His story is his own, but he is dad. Um, I'm not gonna tell the story of why he's dad in this video. I'm gonna save that for another day. But he is my dad. And this relationship is really important to me in this stage because for the first time since I was really little with my grandpa, I have a masculine energy who is providing me a safe space to just be and feel loved. And for the first time since I was little, I do just feel loved. I do just feel welcome. And I do just feel safe. I'm not having to try to be anything that I'm not. Even in the ways that I have grown and changed and adapted, in the way my spiritual practices have changed the way I kind of interact with the world, which makes me different from other people. I've got isms that make me different from other people. And I've always kind of focused on the differences and in a negative way and used them to self-criticize and self-deprecate. Not so much over the last year or so. I've been getting better on it. But here, being in this energy and feeling what it feels like to be in the presence of a healthy masculine energy, and the ways that that is allowing me to kind of set down my own hyper independence and my resistance to relationships because of the harm that I have incurred and the ways I struggle with expressing love and receiving love. This environment has given me the time to really kind of process those differences and to feel it. I don't feel like I've really had any major belief changes. My grandpa, when I was really little, loved me really, really well. So I always had that contrast that helped me keep my heart open even when I was going through my traumas, because I remembered what my grandpa taught me about myself. And I'm finding that again here with my dad. And I have really, really needed that because I've struggled over the last several years with the losses of relationships that I have had. I lost my biological father. My relationship with my blood family is non-existent except for my children. I cut all of those ties. That was what I was running from. Because I felt like everywhere I looked, I saw the same cage, and I couldn't live in that story anymore. It wasn't mine and it wasn't true. And I couldn't live in the messages that people were telling me about myself. So I left and around the world. And in the time that I have run around, not around the world, around this country, but in that time that I had by myself doing that, I learned that I could trust myself with my own safety. I've been getting better at trusting my own intuition and learning to love myself in that. And then I got here and I began remembering those things, and it began really, really putting a contrast up to the ways that I wasn't being open to receiving love, and the ways I was hiding. This is where the hiding came out, because it made the ways I was protecting myself seem silly. When I felt how much I could breathe here and just be okay, and that even when I was hard on myself, I was received well, and I was reminded that I have worth, instead of feeding into any stories or helping add to them. They're challenged almost immediately. And so for my solstice, I have said goodbye to the relationship that I was hiding behind the most, because I still saw hope in the future. And hope is a word that I know is coupled with doubt. We have to have hope in areas where our faith isn't established yet. The knowing hasn't entered in. So we hold on to hope. That's the fake it till we make it part. And I saw an entire life in a dream, and a path, and I thought that that was something that could be held together. But I was still settling for a love that wouldn't meet me, that refused to acknowledge that I had needs, refused to put in any effort, left all the effort of any real openness to me. And though this person did not do any harm to me, the lack of effort that I was accepting, that I was allowing myself to believe I was loved by somebody who did nothing to show me. It had me looking at why I was accepting words when the actions don't line up. And it's because that was safer than opening myself up to being loved, because I was used to the dynamics that I came from. And if I opened myself up again, then what if the next one was worse, right? Because there could always be worse. And I've seen bad And when you've lived among bad, even just a little bit of it, like a little bit less of the bad in this person, it doesn't make it good and it doesn't make it love. And being here has reminded me of that. It's also reminded me of how tired I am over investing in things that don't return. I don't need any more handlers, people that rely on manipulation and silence and coercion and control tactics and all these toxic behaviors. I don't need a handler that's coming at me from an insecure place. I know how much love pours out of me. So now I get to move forward with both the heaviness of all that I have walked away from and let go of, and the versions of love that may have been love but were not able to meet me where I was at, unwilling to, because they still have their own fears, right? It's not blaming anybody. Everybody has their contexts and their nuances and their situations. I can't see anybody else's options, and I certainly cannot clearly see this other person's. The amount of silence has left a lot to the imagination, and I'm not going to fill that gap with my own imagination. I don't live in that anymore. So instead of assuming, I just let silence grow. So I'm sitting here today on this solstice and thinking about these endings and reimagining the future, and that creates a whole bunch of new uncertainties because I was planning a journey for 2, and now it's very, very much looking like it's going to be a journey for 1. And that means that I'm going to have to summon a new form of courage to be able to do that again on my own. I've never asked for solitude. I hate solitude. I was built and designed to be connected. But not less than fully. And I meet everybody fully with who I am. So for me in this solstice, that's what I'm looking at, is the ways that I'm still not meeting myself fully. And I am so happy and grateful today that I have the opportunity to relearn that, to claim that for myself and to get that back. And I am really, really grateful that the work that I have done in my life to this point has put me in a position where I am able to see it and to be able to receive it. And even though I have absolutely no idea what the future is going to hold, I don't care. Because I believe in miracles, and I have been following signs and symbols and the archetypes and, all of the spiritual practices that I have that are precious to me. Because I've taken what I needed and left the rest, and, they're seeds. When I need them, they'll come back around. But living in my truth, in my own journey, in my own spiritual walk, in the ways that it has removed what was actually hurting me, shown me where I was clinging to the weapons of my own destruction, really put me in this place where I get to go into a new year, not only as a new person, but much more rooted in what my values do actually mean to me. I get to move forward actually knowing that I can be joyful and carry a deep reservoir of grief also. And not see that as necessarily a bad thing. My grief and my pain does not mean anything is wrong or weak in me. It means my heart has that much capacity for love, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to me. And I also know that all things balance. So if my heart holds that much grief, it also holds that much light. And I know that that is where the world is moving towards, is greater and greater expression of that light, which means my heart is going to find more and more places to call home, just like my dad is offering me here. And I really just kind of needed to get that out of my head. I'm really reverent with myself when I experience pain and hurt. I don't focus on the other person. The other person is living their own life in every single relationship context. They're living their own life, and they are doing the best they can with what they've been handed, and I don't carry the burden of walking their journey, so I don't pretend to have the answers that they need for themselves. I have knowledge that might help them, but I am not on their spirit team that knows exactly what is going to work for them. So I have to release that and let that go. But I can honor myself and my own growth and my journey. And when I look at what is occurring within me, there's always miracles in that. There's always wisdom. There's always light and dark. Neither scary or bad. I don't have to run from these things anymore. So this solstice means the running and the hiding is over. It's the end of that entire story in that chapter, and now I can cleanly say that every shred of it has lost its hooks on me. The only things that can come forward at this point, because of my own discernment and my own choices, and I'm not going to deny that for me there are other things out there, but I don't think it's even necessary to get into that. I think that we all have our own spiritual experience and learn how to interact with the world of spirit in our own ways, but that also has a very, very real, very practical, very in the body, very psychological aspect to it. And that's the hugest part of it for me, because that's where the contact with spirit occurs, right? Like that's where it is. So I get to look at all of this with a much cleaner perspective of where I was still living in these toxic behaviors for myself and release the other person to their story. I get to still love them, every single one of them, because there was never anything wrong with the love that I had for these people that have hurt me, neglected me, abandoned me, whatever betrayal I felt like other people caused. There was love in me for them that I don't have to let go of, because that was a beautiful part of me. I was able to love them anyway, and I still can. And they loved me in their own ways anyway too, some of them. And so anyway, that's where this solstice is hitting me. And so I really just wanted to, hold myself to my commitment. I missed yesterday because I was having my own day of silence and solitude, and spirit guided me to focus on myself and honor and respect where I was at in my feelings. And so I did. And so I didn't, I broke my commitment. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm just going to pick right back up now and keep going, because if I focus on the count and the perfection of a sequence of numbers in order, 1 through 365, every time I don't meet that commitment, I beat myself up and use it to shame myself. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do today is record a video, get back on my commitment, and focus on the end result, which is the commitment to completing that. The completion of 365 days of filming is more of an accomplishment than can I get all of those numbers in a row without any interruption. I'm not going to focus on the momentary failure. I'm going to focus on the long-term goal, and I'm going to be happy for myself in this moment that I got up and I filmed, even though I know this one is rambling, and I know this one was more emotional, and I know this one isn't very collective. It's more personal. But I'm going through these things. Somebody else is going through these things, and these are the energies that we're in. This is a deeply shedding time. And so there are a lot of us that are dealing with the emotional fatigue of having gone through all of this. There are a lot of us that are just tired of the loss, the success and the win, and then having more scraped away. Even some of what we got in those successes and wins over this last year were scraped away again, So I just know, because I can feel it as much as anybody else tuned in the energies can. There is momentum building. It's like being a racehorse in the gate, holding your breath for them to push the damn buzzer. You're just ready to run, and we're so tired of the loss that I really, really think that when this fire horse year energy hits, there are a lot of us that are just going to be breathing such a deep sigh of relief when the momentum does hit, that we're going to run. And we're not going to run away from any of this pain and trial. We're going to run with it. Because this is going to be what fuels the changes we need, is learning how to live in our truth and speak our truth, and to be able to stand when we need to against injustices in our lives and the lives of others, and knowing when to not even give it our dang attention at all. Because why feed what isn't contributing to your garden? You can't expect to have fruit in a garden if you don't also prune, right? I mean, even nature does that with fire and flooding. All of these things that clear the land in nature are Mother Nature's way of pruning what no longer serves, keeping the area clean so new growth can come in. And at this point in time, I have 3 key relationships: my dad and my 2 kids. That's a lot of room for growth, and nature abhors a vacuum. So Fire Horse Year is going to be amazing, and I see nothing but growth in it, because I'm no longer afraid of the pain and the discomfort of lack and loss. It happens. I work with what is in my hands to work with, and I commune and meet what rises to meet me, because I finally have reached a point where I fully trust myself with my own safety and security to be open enough to receive the love that is offered freely in the world, that can meet me at the level that I rise to meet it. I'm not asking for anything more than what I am willing to give. I never ask anybody to put in more effort than I myself am willing to devote to anything. And that's where I feel like the energies are going this year, and it feels really, really good. And I am really, really proud of myself for getting through these challenges at the end of the year without falling apart or unraveling or being angry, to be able to allow the tears to come, to recognize what isn't right for me and what isn't working for me, and to say something without turning it into a battle and weaponizing things and just seeking to hurt the other person because we're hurting. To be able to stand in my own truth and say, this is my perspective, my experience, and my boundary, because my needs matter to me, is really, really big for me. And I just wanted to share a win, because we are winning. Reward your courage. Give yourself treats and rewards when you do even small things courageous, and the momentum will build for you too. Anyway, ramble, ramble, ramble. Here I go. I love you. Happy solstice. We're almost there. Almost there. It's coming. I can feel it, and I know you can too. So stay strong. You got this. We've got this. We're doing it.